You find yourself in a difficult conversation. It's very emotional. It's very heated. There's a lot at stake. There's an argument about what's true and what's not true. You've planned for this conversation, but then you get in the conversation and you say the wrong thing. It comes out all garbled and it just doesn't turn out right. How do we know to say the right thing? Not just have some general principles like listen or be empathic, but how do we know exactly what words to say? In this video, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how communication really works that will help you learn exactly what to say in these difficult conversations. Hi, everybody. I'm Bruce Lambert from howcommunicationworks.com. This is a channel where I teach you communication skills so you can improve your relationships, succeed at work, and be more confident. So lately, I've seen this new feature on Gmail. You may have seen it too if you're a Gmail user. Suddenly now you're typing along in Gmail and you're in the middle of a sentence and it suggests how it's going to complete the sentence. Not just a single word, but the entire phrase. How does it do this? And often it's right. Often I just hit tab and I accept its suggestion about what to say. How does Gmail know what I'm going to say? Aren't there an infinite number of things that I might say? No. And this is the secret to communication I want to tell you about. The reason Gmail can guess what you're going to say and make a good suggestion is that it has read millions and millions and millions, probably billions of emails the Gmail algorithm has. And not just your emails. It's not basing those suggestions on your emails. It's basing those suggestions on the billions of emails that it's read already. And what it learns by looking at billions of emails is that there isn't an infinite number of ways of saying things. There's a finite number of ways of saying things. And in fact, people recycle the same phrases over and over and over again. When I was in graduate school, I read this paper about the phrasal lexicon. That's kind of an abstract term. What is a lexicon? A lexicon is like a list of words. The dictionary is a kind of lexicon, a list of words. But the phrasal lexicon means that there's a list of phrases that we pull from in our heads, not just a list of words, that all of communication is generated out of this phrasal lexicon, out of a kind of list of stock phrases. This runs counter to something that linguists sometimes say, people like Noam Chomsky, who say that there's an infinite variety of sentences that we might say. This is true in principle. In principle, there's an infinite number of sentences that a person might theoretically say, but in practice, in real situations, there's a small, finite number of things that people actually say. Well, how is this important and useful to us? People are trying to learn how to be better communicators in practical situations. The relevance for us is that in any given situation, we can learn the lexicon of phrases, or another way of saying it, we can learn the idiom. Well, what's an idiom? It's like an ordinary pattern of colloquial speech. Right? There's an idiom. An idiom might be something like, to kick your butt. We're not really kicking your butt. It's an idiom for saying to encourage you, to tell you what to do in sort of harsh terms. But there's a whole idiom for every situation. So consider a situation I've talked about a lot on this channel, and that is comforting someone who's in distress, providing emotional support to a person that's in distress. This is a vital skill in health communication where I do a lot of my teaching and consulting, but it's an important skill throughout life. So it turns out that when we're comforting people, there are not an infinite number of things to say. There's a small, finite list of things to say. And they occur over and over and over again in different comforting situations. And so rather than trying to learn some general principles of comforting, which are not unimportant, I still think that you should, for example, label people's feelings, encourage them to express their feelings, praise that which has been lost. These are the general principles I've given you before. But many of us are saying, no, Bruce, tell me what to say. Let me memorize some phrases. And I don't want you running around like a robot, but in fact, it's possible to memorize some of these phrases. And I've tried to give you them in past videos. And if you go to howcommunicationworks.com and download the ebook on empathy, you'll see a bunch of stock phrases I give you for common ways of doing emotional support. But I think that the trick in any given situation is to find excellent examples. And with Google and with certain kinds of books, you can find these phrases or even ask friends, what would they say in a given situation? And begin to keep a catalog of these well-said things. I've given you an example of like Lincoln writing a condolence letter. And I don't expect you to plagiarize Lincoln exactly, because that might look a little bit silly, although the words are beautiful. But what you want to do is take some of the things that Lincoln said. I gave you that other video. Well, I'll link to both of these previous videos. There's the Lincoln video about writing condolence letters, and then there's the Lincoln video about telling people what not to say. And in both of those, I gave you specific phrases that Lincoln used, like he would say things, "I do not mean to say," "Do not misunderstand me." You want to use exactly those phrases. And in the ebook, I give you comforting phrases. In the Lincoln video, I give you condolence phrases. I'm trying to teach you that there is a phrasal lexicon, an idiom, a set of things that are the sorts of things people say in this type of situation. And since you might think, well, every situation is different, and how am I going to recycle these phrases? Aren't people going to think I'm strange if I keep saying these same things? No, because you're going to put them sort of in your own style and people won't know. Plus, it won't matter because everyone is talking this way anyway. Everyone is just recycling the same phrases that they hear anyway. And you might think, well, there's an infinite variety of situations in life. How could I ever memorize enough phrases? There aren't really an infinite variety of situations. There's a small, well, maybe it's not small, but there's a large but finite variety of situations, and they come in general types, right? There are comforting situations, and there are situations where we have to regulate and control other people's behavior. There are persuasion situations. There are situations where we have to offer a criticism or constructive suggestions. There are apology situations. These situations fall into a finite number of types, and each one of these types of communication situations in a given language and culture has a set of stock phrases that are used in those situations. I've tried to supply those in certain stock situations, and I'll continue doing that. I'm thinking of doing a video soon on apologies, and I'll give you a bunch of sort of good and bad apologies, which give you examples of exactly what to say or exactly what not to say. So that's all that I wanted to say in this video, that ordinary language use comes in routine kinds of situations, and within each of those situations, there is a small number of phrases that get recycled over and over and over again. And if you sometimes struggle to be articulate, to find the words to say, it may be because you're trying to memorize general rules instead of memorizing actual phrases and recycling those. This may seem like strange advice, but I promise you, it's not. This is how everybody communicates, by recycling turns of phrase. And that's why reading poetry, reading literature, reading well-written journalism is so useful, because you read those phrases and you internalize the way those writers write, and they become part of your own lexicon of phrases. So that's it. Question of the day for today. What are some stock phrases that you use over and over again that you've come to rely on as really effective? And maybe tell me what they are and where you've learned them. So tell me stock phrases that work really well for you. Go down in the comments and let me know what some of them are. I'll try to start the discussion by giving some of my own stock phrases. If you like this kind of video about communication skills and how communication works, come on over to howcommunicationworks.com, download our ebook and sign up for our mailing list, and we'll write you every time we post a new video. And if this is the first time you've visited us, I hope you'd consider subscribing to the channel and clicking that bell icon so you'll be notified every time we upload a new video. Thanks so much for your time. I value your attention. We'll see you next time.